Let's talk about a story that's been buried for centuries. It's about a forgotten genius from the Islamic Golden Age, a woman who created a piece of technology so revolutionary it was literally centuries ahead of its time.
Think about it. Right now, you can pull out your phone and know exactly where you are on the planet. It's instant. But for almost all of human history, that simple question, where am I, was one of the hardest problems to solve. So how on earth did anyone figure it out?
Well, for centuries, for sailors and scientists and travelers, the answer was this incredible device. It wasn't just a map, it wasn't just a compass, it was a dynamic tool that could basically model the entire universe right in the palm of your hand.
And that's not an exaggeration, by the way. This thing was so powerful, it performed so many complex calculations that a lot of people today call it exactly what it was, the original portable computer.
So what is this thing? It's called an astrolabe. At its heart, it's this intricate metal disc that maps the heavens. It lets you solve all kinds of problems about time and the stars with just, incredible precision. For over 1,000 years, this was the absolute peak of personal tech.
So, this amazing device, this 10th century computer, how did it get so good? Let's dive in.
Okay, so picture this. We're heading back to 10th century Aleppo in Syria. It's this bustling hub of science and culture. And right there, in the center of learning, one of the most celebrated makers of these super advanced astrolabes wasn't some famous old scholar, it was a young woman.
And that maker, she has a name, the one we find in the historical texts, Al-Zahrawi.
Now, right off the bat, let's talk about her name. You might have seen her called Maryam al-Astrolabi online, but that's actually a modern name that became popular. The only real historical record we have from her time calls her Al-Ijliya, the daughter of Al-Ijli, who is also an astrolabe maker.
So what do we actually know about her? Well, the records tell us she literally followed in her father's footsteps, becoming this incredibly skilled astrolabe maker. They both apprenticed under a master craftsman from Baghdad named Nastulis. And get this, Al-Ijliya's work was so good, so innovative, that she was employed by the ruler of Aleppo himself, Saif al-Dawla. I mean, that's a huge deal.
Okay, so we know she was a master of her craft, but what could these creations, these little universes you could hold in your hand, what could they actually do?
Honestly, the best way to think about it is that her astrolabe was loaded with apps. Seriously, it was your GPS for finding your latitude. It was a clock for telling time, day or night. It was a calendar. It was a Qibla finder, pointing you toward Mecca for prayer. And it was a planetarium, mapping the entire night sky. All of it in one beautiful handheld device.
And you've got to understand, this is what makes her so incredible. She wasn't just a theorist writing things down. She was a scientist who had to understand insanely complex math, an engineer who could craft these precise instruments, and an artist who made them beautiful. She was the whole package, the coder, the designer, and the hardware manufacturer, all rolled into one person.
And look, this wasn't some fancy toy for scholars to show off. Her astrolabes had a massive, real-world impact. They were absolutely essential for merchants navigating dangerous trade routes, for astronomers charting the stars, and for the daily religious life of an entire civilization.
So if her work was so essential, so important to the society of her time, it kind of brings us to a huge mystery, the case of the missing genius.
I mean, really think about it. We know the names of plenty of male scientists from centuries ago, right? But a woman who built the equivalent of a 10th century smartphone has been almost completely written out of the story. So, why?
Well, there's no single easy answer. It was kind of a perfect storm of reasons. For one, the historical record is just really thin. She was a maker, a craftsperson. She left behind instruments, not books. Plus, history has this funny habit of remembering the big idea theorists more than the brilliant engineers who actually built things. And then, of course, there's the unavoidable fact that for centuries, the contributions of women in science were just systematically ignored or minimized. But, and this is the best part, that is not where her story ends. Because a legacy this powerful, well, it can't stay buried forever.
A story this great was bound to resurface, thanks to the hard work of historians and, honestly, the power of the internet. Her story is finally re-emerging. She's being recognized not just as a historical footnote, but as the giant of science and technology that she was.
Just check out this timeline. It's incredible. We go from her workshop in the 950s, and then 1,000 years later, her legacy just explodes. An asteroid discovered in 1990 is officially named for her. She inspires the main character of an award-winning sci-fi novel and even a character in a huge TV show. Her name is now literally written among the stars. When you boil it all down, her story is such a powerful reminder of a simple, fundamental truth. Genius, innovation, brilliance. They've never belonged to one culture, one time, or one gender.
And that leaves us with one last big question. Her story was almost lost forever. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other innovators, artists, and scientists are out there just waiting in the footnotes of history for us to find them?